When you think of a Hindu temple, a very specific image probably comes to mind, right? You see that huge tower, the shikara, reaching up into the sky. You imagine the dark, quiet corridor leading to the inner sanctum. You can almost hear the bells and the chanting. And yeah, it's a place of worship, a sacred site, a living tradition. But what if I told you that just beneath that surface, there's a whole other layer of meaning hiding in plain sight? Okay, so let's just dive right in with a question that almost no one ever thinks to ask. We see these incredible structures and we just accept them as they are. But have you ever stopped to wonder why a temple faces the exact direction it does? I mean, not just generally east, but that precise direction, down to the degree. Why not a little bit to the left or right? And it goes way deeper than that. This precision is literally everywhere you look. The length of that hallway, the exact spot where the idol is placed, the specific date of the main festival, even the way the tower's shadow falls at high noon. None of this feels random. It all seems like every single element was specified with incredible, deliberate accuracy. Now, if you ask the traditional answers you'll get, that it's required by sacred texts or that it's just ancient tradition, those answers are absolutely correct. But as our research is starting to show, they aren't the complete story. There's an older, much more technical layer underneath it all. It's almost like a blueprint. And, well, uncovering that blueprint changes everything. And that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. The temple seems to have a hidden function, one that's been preserved right out in the open for thousands of years. And here it is. This is the crucial point. Every Hindu temple is a precision instrument. And I want to be super clear here, that is not a metaphor. It's not some kind of poetic description. We mean it in the most literal, physical sense possible. So when we say instrument, what do we actually mean? We mean a functional tool, a physical, measurable device that was literally designed to observe, record, and pass down very specific information. Information about the sun, the stars, the seasons, and believe it or not, even the local water table. So, okay, if the temple is an instrument, then how do its parts work? Let's take a look and break down the anatomy of this ancient technology. This is where it gets really fascinating. We can actually map familiar temple parts to their instrumental functions. So the idol, for instance, it's not just an object of devotion. It's the measurement target, the focal point of the whole device. That long corridor? It's an optical sightline designed to let sunlight in only at very specific angles on specific days. The huge tower, the shikara, acts as a massive shadow clock and a sightline to the horizon. And the temple tank? It's literally a water level measurement tool. Even the rituals are part of the machine. The main festival date? That's the day of the instrument's primary alignment. It's an annual verification test. And the deity's name often acts as a label for what astronomical event is being tracked, while its animal vehicle, the vahana, can be an ecological indicator for that specific season. And this is the big mental shift you have to make. These things, they aren't just symbols, not in the way we think of symbols today. They are functional encodings. The builders were embedding hard data directly into the stone, into the architecture, and into the rituals themselves. But that just raises a huge question, right? Why? Why go to all this incredible trouble? What was the massive problem that these ancient engineers were trying to solve with such an elegant and complex design? Well, the problem was one of information survival. Think about it. For an ancient agricultural society, knowing the seasons with precision wasn't just nice to have, it was a matter of life and death. You had to know exactly when to plant, when to harvest, when the monsoons were coming. Getting it wrong could lead to total catastrophe. So the question becomes, how do you transmit that critical data accurately across thousands of years through the rise and fall of empires and languages?
And the solution they came up with it's brilliant. It's a two-layered system. Layer one is the physical structure itself. The stone remembers. Its precise orientation and dimensions are locked in, encoding the astronomical specification forever. But then there's layer two, the ritual. The community maintains the instrument, maybe without even knowing they're doing it. That annual festival acts as a calibration and verification check, ensuring the system keeps working generation after generation.
And this, for me, is maybe the most profound piece of the whole puzzle. The system was designed to survive the loss of its own engineers. Just think about that. Even if the knowledge of why it was built that way was completely forgotten, the combination of a permanent stone structure and a self-perpetuating community ritual would make sure the instrument just kept on working. This leads to a really crucial distinction, one that's a little bit of a mind bender. The date a temple was physically built is not the same as the date its astronomical alignment was calculated for. So you can find a temple that was constructed in, say, 1044 CE, so it's about 1,000 years old, but it's precisely aligned to a star's position as it appeared way back in 2690 BCE. The temple actually encodes both dates, and we can recover them both. So, how do we put all this together? How can we actually read a temple today? Well, it means looking at two halves of the same whole, the tradition on one side and the instrument on the other. So here's the basic methodology we use. We look at a temple through two different lenses. First, we look at what we call the first half, the tradition. That's all the legends, the mythology, the deity, the festival calendar. We present that story on its own terms. Then, we apply the second lens, the second half, and read the temple as an instrument. That involves going out and measuring the alignments, calculating that original specification date, and decoding names and numbers as functional data. And what's really cool is that using this dual lens approach has actually led us to a new hypothesis based on our research, something we're calling the Vimana face marker. So the idea is actually pretty simple. The sloped faces of the main tower, the Vimana, could have acted as a giant public calendar. At sunrise on certain important days of the year, the light would hit the tower at such a shallow angle that it would only light up the sculpted figures on the face. This grazing illumination would be a clear signal marking a key solar date for anyone standing in the courtyard. No special knowledge, no access to the inner sanctum needed. So in the end, you see these two views, the tradition and the instrument, they don't contradict each other at all. In fact, they illuminate each other. The legends, the mythology, the festival, they give life and meaning to the cold, hard data of the alignment and the specification date. They're just two sides of one incredible, single reality.
All right, so let's get right to the core thesis. The people who built these ancient systems were meticulous observers of the natural world. I mean, they were tracking everything: the sun's path, the moon's cycle through the constellations, the timing of the monsoons, even bird migrations. The big challenge for them was, how do you store all that crucial data and make sure it doesn't get lost?
Well, the solution they came up with was just brilliant. It's a kind of cultural technology called personification. You take a natural force, something you've studied and understand, and you give it a human-like face, a story, an identity. That makes the information, well, it makes it sticky. It becomes memorable and incredibly easy to pass down.
And that's the key right there. The deity becomes the label on the file. It's not making the deity smaller, it's a technical description of its job within the system. And when you see it that way, the whole tradition doesn't shrink, it becomes so much bigger.
Okay, I know this might sound a bit abstract, but this isn't just some philosophical idea. The whole theory is built on measurable, testable examples. So let's actually dig in and see how this celestial code works in practice. So first up, let's look at Vishnu, the preserver. He is tied directly to the nakshatra of Shravana. A nakshatra, by the way, is basically a station along the moon's path, and this one is marked by the star Altair. Now, you know that famous image of Vishnu reclining? That's not just a random pose. It is the label. It's the instruction for the agricultural rest season. The message is crystal clear. Planting is done, it's time to preserve.
And this is just a perfect example of a powerful mnemonic, a memory aid. The logic is so simple and beautiful, it's almost impossible to forget. The Lord rests, so the farmer knows to rest. The entire instruction is encoded right there in the image of the deity.
All right, let's do another one. Shiva, often known as the destroyer. He maps to the nakshatra Ardra, which is marked by the star Betelgeuse. This pairing signals the start of the storm season. You see? His role as the one who brings transformation is the perfect personification for the monsoon, which completely dissolves the dry season.
What's really cool is that it's not just about single images. Sometimes the entire story itself is the instruction. The nakshatra Rohini, marked by the bright star Aldebaran, signals the absolute peak window for planting. And the crucial data is carried in a story about the moon's great love for Rohini.
So the story goes that the moon was so intensely in love with Rohini that he just refused to leave her side to visit his other wives, the other nakshatras. And that story, that's the mnemonic. The message is baked right in. When the moon is with Rohini, you shouldn't leave your fields either. Plant right now, because this perfect window is going to be very short.
And this system of encoding goes even deeper. It's not just the gods themselves, it's the symbols they carry, the animals they ride. It's all data. Garuda, the eagle, is seen riding the thermal updrafts that come just before the monsoon, signaling the rainy season is close. And Shiva's trident? That's not just a weapon. Its 3 prongs mark 3 crucial points in the sun's annual path, the 2 solstices and the equinox. Every single detail is packed with meaning.
This really gets to the core of why this system is so ingenious. Think about it. A plain instruction, plant your crops in this week, can be easily forgotten or changed over a few generations. But a story creates emotion. Emotion leads to rituals, and rituals are how you transmit information perfectly across centuries. They knew that a good story was the most durable hard drive they could possibly create.
So, we've seen the code, but how does it all actually work in the real world year after year? Well, the answer lies in this elegant dual system, where the spiritual and the technical work together in perfect harmony. Just picture a community gathering for a big annual festival. On one level, you see a genuine religious experience happening. People are expressing devotion, connecting with their culture and their ancestors. That is absolutely real and vital. But at the exact same time, something technical is happening. A verification is taking place. The temple itself is being used as a scientific instrument. Its alignment is being checked. And critical seasonal data is being passed on to the whole community.
And here's the beautiful part. These two things don't compete with each other. They actually reinforce each other. The community's devotion ensures that the instrument, the temple, the rituals, the stories, is maintained with absolute precision. And because that instrument provides reliable, life-sustaining knowledge, the community thrives, which in turn deepens their gratitude and devotion. It's a perfect loop.
You can think of it like this. The spiritual side tells you what the community felt and experienced. The technical side tells you why that experience was so reliable, year after year, century after century. To really understand what's going on, you have to have both. One without the other just gives you an incomplete picture.
So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, the gods as data, the stories as mnemonics, this dual system of devotion and verification, what does it all add up to? What did this civilization really accomplish? Well, what they achieved was, frankly, astonishing. They solved one of the hardest problems any civilization faces: how to pass down critical knowledge perfectly intact across thousands of years. They solved it so well that the system is still running today. It is still correct, still precise, and still telling the truth about the sky and the seasons to anyone who knows how to read the code.